The rejection felt final. That is what made it so disorienting. Not just the withdrawal, not just the distance, the specific quality of finality that avoidant rejection carries, the cooling that suggested something had been decided, the management of closeness that communicated without words that the chapter was closing, and then something shifted, not immediately, not cleanly. Not in the dramatic, announced way that would make the shift easy to understand. In the slow, private, unwitnessed way that genuine interior change always moves, through the accumulated weight of absence producing recognition, through the specific gray of a life from which something particular has been removed, through the honest reckoning that arrives when the distance no longer provides the relief it was supposed to provide. The avoidant who once rejected the empath finds themselves in the private interior of their own experience, somewhere they did not plan to be, in love with the person they left. Not for the first time, the love was present before the rejection, but differently now. With a clarity the alarm was previously drowning out, with a specificity the distance has sharpened rather than softened. With the full, uncompeted against weight of genuine feeling that the management protocol was always intercepting before it could fully land. Understanding why this happens, why the rejection precedes rather than prevents the falling, requires honest examination of both what the empath brought and what the rejection revealed. What the empath brought that the rejection couldn't erase. The empath did not bring ordinary care, did not bring the standard warmth that competent, loving people bring to relationships, brought something more specific and more rare, the quality of accurate seeing combined with genuine remaining. Most people who see the avoidant clearly, who perceive the wound beneath the behavior, the fear beneath the distance, the genuine interior beneath the self-sufficient performance, respond to the seeing in one of two ways. They flee it, finding the complexity more than they want to navigate. Or they make it their project, organizing their presence around the wound and thereby confirming the avoidant's fear that being seen leads to being managed. The empath did neither, saw clearly, and simply remained, not organized around the wound, not performing acceptance of it. Simply present with the full, genuine, unmanaged quality of someone who encountered the avoidance interior and found it worth staying for without making the staying into a statement about the wound. That quality, the seeing without the agenda, the remaining without the management, is what the avoidance system could not fully process while it was present. The alarm was running. The cost assessment was ongoing, the management protocol was operating alongside the receiving, the rejection created distance. And in the distance, with the alarm reduced and the cost assessment no longer running at full volume, the quality of what the empath brought could finally land without competition. And it landed with a completeness that the management protocol had been preventing. What the rejection actually did. The rejection felt from the empath's side like being evaluated and found insufficient. From the avoidance side, it was something else entirely. It was the system doing what the system does when the stakes become real, when genuine attachment has formed past the threshold of manageable closeness. When the interior has been genuinely shared with someone whose perception is accurate enough that the sharing feels irreversible. The rejection was the alarm overriding the love, not because the love was insufficient, because the alarm was louder, was faster, was running on a program that predated the love and had more established infrastructure than the love had yet built. The alarm said this is too much, the stakes are too real, the exposure is too complete, exit before the cost arrives. The love said stay. The alarm won, not permanently, not with the decisiveness that the rejection's finality implied. The alarm won the immediate moment, created the distance. Produced the cooling and the withdrawal and the specific quality of finality that the rejection carried. But the love did not lose, did not disappear, did not dissolve into the distance the alarm created. It went underground, continued in the interior without the outlet of expression. Persisted in the unguarded moments, in the involuntary returns, in the specific and refuses to be filed quality of something stored whole rather than processed. The rejection created the distance. The love continued in the distance. And the distance, over time, did something the alarm did not predict. It removed the competition. Why distance produces what presence couldn't. While the empath was present, the avoidance experience of the love was always accompanied by the alarm's countersignal. This matters, feels real, is genuine, and is dangerous, can be lost, creates vulnerability, requires something in return that the system may not be able to provide. The love and the alarm arrived together inseparably in every moment of genuine closeness. The appreciation and the threat assessment were simultaneous. The warmth and the cost calculation ran in parallel. In this state, the full appreciation of what the empath brought was not possible, not because the appreciation was absent, because it was consistently, immediately competed against. The distance removes the competition. The alarm without its immediate trigger reduces. The cost assessment without ongoing intimacy to assess quiets. The management protocol without active closeness to manage runs at reduced capacity. And in the reduced management state, the love has room to be felt without the alarm's countersignal drowning it out. The full, uncompeted against, nothing else running alongside it experience of what the empath was and what the connection contained, landing, fully, for the first time, in the person who rejected them, the specific quality of the empath that survives rejection. Not every person who is rejected remains in the avoidance interior with this kind of persistence. Most rejections follow the expected pattern. The feelings diminish, the specific person recedes, the self-sufficiency that the distance restored feels genuinely restored. Life reorganizes and the previous connection becomes part of history. The empath's rejection does not follow this pattern, because what the empath brought was not ordinary enough to be processed in the ordinary way. The specific quality of being genuinely seen without being made into a project, that is not something the general passage of time and the general resumption of life provides access to. Is not replicated by new connections however genuine, is not manufactured by the avoidant's own self-sufficient interior however rich. It was particular to the empath. And particular things, when lost, produce particular absence, not the vague, ambient absence of general loneliness. The specific, located, knows exactly what is missing absence of someone who had something specific and is now without it. The empath's particular quality persists in the avoidance interior not because the avoidant chose to hold on to it, but because particular things do not release on the schedule that general things follow. They stay. In the specific, unmanageable, refuses to be filed way that real things stay. What changes in the avoidant during the interval? The interval between the rejection and the falling, the period in which the distance is maintained, the management protocol runs, the empath is building their own life and the avoidant is inhabiting the distance that was supposed to produce relief, is not a static period. Things are changing in the avoidance interior during this time, quietly. Without announcement, without the dramatic markers that would make the change visible from the outside, the narrative that was built to make the rejection feel like wisdom rather than fear keeps encountering evidence against itself. Memory is more cooperative with the love than with the constructed story. The specific moments of genuine meeting keep surfacing with more emotional weight than the incompatibilities that were assembled as justification. The replacement keeps not happening. New connections keep falling short of the specific standard that the empath's presence established, not because new people are insufficient. Because the specific quality of the empath seeing and remaining is not a general quality available through general proximity to other human beings. The self-sufficiency keeps revealing its limits. The life that was supposed to feel complete in the restored independence keeps having a specific quality of incompleteness that the self-sufficient narrative cannot adequately explain. And the love which was supposed to diminish with sufficient distance and sufficient time keeps refusing to diminish. These changes accumulate, quietly, each one individually manageable, together constituting an interior that is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain in its current configuration. The rejection is being internally revised, not consciously. Not as a deliberate reconsideration, through the accumulated weight of evidence that the assessment the rejection implied was not accurate. What was left was not insufficient, was extraordinary. Was the specific, particular, irreplaceable quality of one person whose presence activated something in the avoidant that the distance has not been able to deactivate. The falling is not a new event. It is the original love becoming fully visible to the person who is always feeling it. Why the empath's own journey matters. While the avoidance interior is undergoing this quiet revision, the empath is somewhere. If the empath has been genuinely building their own life, genuinely investing in their own interior, genuinely redirecting primary attention toward what is actually present and actually available, they are somewhere real. Have direction and momentum and the specific, accumulated quality of someone who has been actually living rather than waiting. This somewhere is significant not because of what it produces in the avoidant, though it produces something, but because of what it produces in the empath. It produces a person who is genuinely different from the one who was rejected, not different in essence. The depth of perception is still present. The quality of warmth is still present. The specific, extraordinary capacity for genuine seeing and genuine remaining is still fully there, different in position, in groundedness, in the specific, demonstrated, lived-through genuine investment self-possession of someone who has been through something real and built something real in response. When the avoidant falls, when the interior revision completes, when the falling becomes undeniable, when some form of reaching becomes possible, they reach toward this person. the empath who has been genuinely somewhere, who is genuinely grounded, who receives the reaching from the specific, clear-eyed, built through genuine work position of someone who knows their own worth and knows the difference between the reaching that comes from genuine change and the reaching that comes from the acute discomfort of absence. The empath's own journey during the interval is not preparation for the avoidance return. It is the empath's life. Genuinely theirs, built for genuinely their own reasons, and it happens to produce the person the avoidant falls in love with when they finally, honestly, see what they rejected, the honest question at the center. The avoidant falls in love with the empath they once rejected. The falling is real, the love is genuine. The recognition of what was lost has arrived with the specific, undeniable weight of something the management protocol cannot continue to contain. And the honest question, the one that the falling does not automatically answer, is what the empath does with it, not what they should do. What they actually do from the actual position they are actually in, with the actual self-knowledge they have actually developed. Because the empath who has been genuinely somewhere, genuinely building, genuinely self-possessed, genuinely clear-eyed about the difference between love and capacity, receives the avoidance falling from a position that is genuinely different from where they were when the rejection happened. They know more about the avoidance pattern, about their own needs, about the difference between the bond being real and the relationship being available, about what showing up actually looks like and what the evidence of genuine change consists of, about what they will and will not again quietly accept in the name of love. The falling is real. The question of what to do with it is the empath's. Made from their actual position, with their actual knowledge, in genuine service of their actual life, not from the depleted place that the rejection left, from the grounded, self-possessed, genuinely somewhere place that the interval and the genuine building produced. That position and the genuine clarity it contains is the most valuable thing the empath brings to this moment. More valuable than the love which was always present, more valuable than the understanding which was always accurate, the groundedness, the self-knowledge, the genuine life that was built in the space the rejection created. That is what makes this moment genuinely different from the beginning. And what it becomes from here depends on both people, on the empath's honest assessment of what is being offered and whether it is accompanied by the evidence of genuine change, and on the avoidant's willingness to do what recognition without work cannot do for them. Both are real, both are required, and only one of them is yours to provide. The falling has been described. Why it happens, what the rejection actually did, why distance produces what presence couldn't, what the empath's own journey means for the moment the avoidant finally sees clearly. What 4,000 more words can honestly add is the examination of what this specific dynamic, the rejection followed by the falling, reveals about both people. Not just as psychological types, but as specific human beings who went through something real and are now, each in their own way, in different territory than where they started. What the rejection taught the empath that nothing else could. Being rejected by someone you genuinely loved, someone whose love you perceived accurately, whose interior you understood with unusual clarity, whose bond with you was real on both sides, teaches something that gentler experiences cannot teach. It teaches the difference between love and availability. Before the rejection, these two things may have felt like they should be the same. If the love is real, it becomes available. If the bond is genuine, it sustains. If the connection runs deep enough, it finds a way to expression and presence in the daily, ordinary showing up that constitutes an actual relationship. The rejection is the direct, experiential, cannot be intellectualized away proof that they are not the same. The love was real, the availability was not yet there. Both things simultaneously true, and the coexistence of both, the genuine mutuality of the feeling alongside the genuine insufficiency of the expression, is the specific education that nothing except this experience provides. This education is not comfortable, it is genuinely useful. It installs, at the level of lived knowledge rather than intellectual understanding, a specific and protective discernment. The discernment that asks, when love is present, whether availability is also present. That does not accept love as sufficient evidence of availability. That is learned through the specific, costly experience of loving someone whose love was real and whose capacity was insufficient, that these are different questions requiring different evidence. The empath who carries this discernment into the moment of the avoidance falling is not the same person who was rejected. Has learned something that changes how love is received and what it is required to demonstrate before being allowed to reorganize the life around it. What the avoidant lost access to when they rejected. Something specific was lost when the avoidance system overrode the love and produced the rejection, not just the empath's presence. Not just the connection and the warmth and the specific quality of being genuinely accompanied, something more interior than that, the version of themselves that was possible in the empath's presence. This is the loss that the avoidant least expects and most feels in the interval following the rejection. The loss not of the empath but of who they were around the empath, the more open version. The less managed version, the version that occasionally, in the specific safety created by the empath's quality of seeing and remaining, allowed something true to surface that the self-sufficiency ordinarily keeps private. That version is not available in the empath's absence, not because the empath produced it artificially, they didn't. But because the conditions the empath created, the specific quality of genuine safety, the seeing without agenda, the remaining without management, those conditions were uniquely theirs. And without them, the more defended version of the avoidant is the default again. The avoidant, inhabiting the distance, inhabits the defended version. The self-sufficient, managed, walls-intact version that was the only version available before the empath arrived, and that version, while functional, is quieter, has less in it, does not have access to the register of experience that the empath's presence opened. The loss of the empath is also the loss of the version of themselves that was possible with the empath. And that loss, specific, irreplaceable, not addressed by the general resumption of life, is one of the central drivers of the falling. Why the falling is more complete than the original love. The love that existed before the rejection was real, was genuine, was present on both sides, but it was complicated by the alarm's simultaneous running. By the cost assessment that accompanied every moment of genuine closeness, by the management protocol that was always operating alongside the receiving, the love after the rejection, the falling that occurs in the interval, in the distance, in the private interior of someone who is honest enough with themselves to acknowledge what the distance has revealed, is different in quality. It is uncompeted against, the alarm is not running at the same volume, the cost assessment is not being performed in real time. The management protocol has less to manage because the intimacy is not present in its immediate, daily, this person is actually here form, and in the reduced management, quieter alarm state, the love has room to be felt fully, without the countersignal. Without the simultaneous threat assessment, without the alarm competing with the appreciation, the love that arrives in the interval, that becomes undeniable in the distance, that the falling consists of, is the original love freed from competition, which makes it feel more complete than what was present before, more present to itself, more fully experienced, more clearly felt. The cruel irony is not lost, the love is most complete when the person it is directed toward is most absent, but the completeness is real, and it is what makes the falling genuinely different from the original feeling, what makes it something the avoidant cannot continue to manage into the background or contain within the usual protocol. It has become too loud, too clear, too undeniably present. The empath's position when the falling arrives. The empath who has been genuinely building their life during the interval is in a specific and important position when the avoidance falling becomes visible in some form of reaching. They are not where they were. Not emotionally, the love may still be present, the bond may still be felt, the specific quality of what was real may still be carried. But positionally, in terms of what they have built, what they know, what they will and will not accept, what evidence they require before allowing the reaching to reorganize the life they have been constructing. This positional difference is crucial because it changes the nature of what any reconnection would consist of. The empath who returns to the avoidant from this position is not returning to the previous dynamic, is not resuming the previous configuration, is bringing a genuinely different self, more grounded, more self-knowing, clearer about what is needed and what the evidence of genuine change looks like, into contact with someone who is genuinely, not performatively, in a different interior state. Two people both changed by the interval, encountering each other in the aftermath of a rejection that produced its own specific education in both of them. That encounter is not the resumption of what was, it is genuinely new ground, what genuine change in the avoidant actually looks like. The falling is real, the love is undeniable, the recognition of what was lost is honest and specific. And the falling, the love, and the recognition are not, by themselves, evidence of change. Change is something different from feeling, different from recognizing, different from the genuine, heartfelt, honestly arrived at understanding that the rejection was the pattern overriding the love, and that the pattern has cost something irreplaceable. Change is what happens when that recognition is converted into actual, behavioral, showed overtime action on the pattern itself. In the avoidant, genuine change looks like specific things. It looks like seeking support, not declaring the intention to seek support. Actually being in a therapeutic relationship that addresses the specific, attachment level, nervous system deep work of becoming available for what they feel. This work is slow, is not linear, involves setbacks, and is the only thing that actually rewires the alarm's response rather than simply providing more motivation to override it in a single high-stakes moment. It looks like showing up in the ordinary moments, not when the missing has become acute enough to override the management protocol, not in the dramatic, emotion-driven moments when the falling is loudest and the motivation is highest, in the Tuesday afternoons, the unremarkable conversations. The moments when nothing particular is at stake and the only motivation for being present is the genuine choice to be present. It looks like staying through the alarm, not the declaration of willingness to stay. The actual, demonstrated, happened in real time staying when the intimacy deepens past the threshold that previously produced the running. When the alarm fires, and it will fire, the alarm does not stop firing simply because the falling has become undeniable, the choosing to stay rather than creating distance, imperfectly, with acknowledgement when the pull toward distance is felt, but staying. It looks like honesty about the pattern, not the intellectualized, framework-fluent discussion of avoidant attachment as a concept. The personal, vulnerable, this is what happens in me honesty about the specific ways the pattern operates and the specific work being done to address it. These are not impossible standards. They are not demands designed to make return impractical. They are what genuine change actually consists of. And the empath who has been genuinely somewhere, who has developed the self-knowledge and the groundedness and the clear-eyed discernment that the interval produced, can distinguish between the presence and the absence of these things, can feel the difference between someone who is genuinely doing the work and someone who is reaching because the falling has become too loud to sit with. That discernment is one of the most valuable things the interval produced, what the empath owes themselves in this moment. When the avoidance falling produces some form of reaching, when the contact comes, when the recognition is somehow communicated, when the possibility of something different becomes real, the empath is owed something from themselves: honesty. Not the honesty of declaring what they need in some confrontational or transactional form. The private, interior, nobody else is involved honesty of an honest accounting with themselves about what is actually present, whether the love they still carry is love they want to move toward or love they have been genuinely releasing. Whether the life they have built in the interval is a life they want to remain in or a life that was always a placeholder pending the avoidance return. Whether the reaching is arriving into a genuine openness or arriving too late to find the specific configuration of availability it would have found before. These questions are not designed to produce a particular answer. They are designed to produce the honest answer, which may be yes, the love is still here, the openness is genuine, the possibility of something genuinely different is worth exploring. Or the love is present, but the life that was built is more important right now, and the reaching is arriving into someone who has moved genuinely enough that return is not what is needed. Both answers are valid. Both can be arrived at honestly, and the only one worth acting from is the honest one, not the one that seems most evolved or most healed or most consistent with the arc of the story that has been building, the one that is actually true for the specific person in the specific moment. The larger truth about rejection and falling. The avoidant falls in love with the empath they rejected because rejection and falling are, in this specific psychology, not opposites. The rejection was the alarm overriding the love. The falling is the love surviving the override. Both happened. Both were real. The rejection did not cancel the love. The love did not prevent the rejection. They coexisted, the genuine feeling and the genuine fear, and the fear was louder in the moment of rejection, while the love was louder in the moment of falling. This coexistence is not a contradiction. It is the specific, honest, psychologically accurate portrait of what it looks like when genuine love meets a nervous system that was not yet built to hold it. The rejection was the not yet built to hold it expressing itself. The falling is the love persisting past the system's attempt to override it. And the question, the only one that matters practically, is what comes after the falling, what the avoidant does with the recognition that the love persisted. Whether the persistence of the love becomes the motivation for the work that builds the capacity to hold it, whether the falling becomes the beginning of genuine change or the latest expression of a pattern that has not yet been addressed, that question is entirely the avoidance to answer, through behavior, over time, in the ordinary moments. And the empath, grounded, self-possessed, genuinely somewhere in their own life, watches the behavior rather than the falling, observes the ordinary moments rather than the acute ones, waits for the evidence that the work is happening rather than accepting the reaching as sufficient proof of change. That watchfulness is not coldness. It is the specific, hard-won, interval-produced wisdom of someone who learned through the rejection, through the building, through the honest accounting of what love requires to become a relationship, what to look for and what to require. and who has enough genuine self-possession now to require it, not as punishment for the rejection. As the honest expression of someone who knows their own worth and will not again accept less than what that worth deserves, the rejection and the falling have been examined honestly, what the rejection taught, what the avoidant lost access to, why the falling is more complete than the original love, what genuine change actually looks like, what the empath owes themselves in this moment. What 2,000 more words can add is something worth saying directly, not as more psychological elaboration, but as honest examination of what this specific experience, the rejection followed by the falling, actually means for how both people move forward. The thing about falling for someone who already left. The empath who is loved by someone who once rejected them is in a position that has no clean emotional logic. The love is real now. The recognition is genuine. The falling that happened in the interval, quiet, private, produced by the honest accounting that distance forced, is not manufactured. Is not the avoidant performing sentiment to regain something they casually discarded. It is real love arriving more fully than it did the first time, and it is arriving to someone who was genuinely hurt by its earlier, less complete expression. That combination produces something that deserves honest naming, not hope exactly, not distrust exactly. Something more nuanced and more honest than either, careful attention, the specific earned, interval-produced quality of attention that knows the difference between feeling and capacity, that receives the falling with genuine warmth and genuine clear-sightedness simultaneously. That does not dismiss what is real and does not accept what is real as sufficient evidence of what is required. The empath who has been genuinely building their own life during the interval has developed this quality of careful attention, not as a defense, as the natural expression of someone who has learned, through direct experience, that the question worth asking is not whether the love is real, but whether the capacity to sustain it is developing. What the empath brings that is different now. Before the rejection, the empath brought extraordinary things: the depth of seeing, the warmth without demand, the quality of presence that bypassed the avoidance defenses not through force, but through the specific, genuine, unperformed quality of being completely themselves. These things are still present, unchanged in their essential quality. What has been added is something that was not there before, groundedness that has been tested. Before the rejection, the empath's self-possession was genuine, but untested in this specific way. Had not been through the direct experience of being rejected by someone they accurately perceived as genuinely loving them. Had not had to navigate the specific, disorienting experience of the love being real and the rejection also being real and both being simultaneously true. The interval tested the groundedness, applied the specific pressure of loss and absence and the genuine uncertainty of not knowing whether the connection would ever find its way back. Required the genuine work of redirecting toward their own life when the primary orientation had been elsewhere for a significant period, and the groundedness held, not without difficulty, not without the days when the orientation drifted back toward the avoidant and had to be returned. Not without the genuine grief of having loved genuinely and received the rejection genuinely and had to build something from what remained, but held, through the testing, emerged on the other side more genuinely itself than it was before. That tested groundedness is what the empath brings now that they did not bring before the rejection. And it changes everything about what any reconnection is capable of becoming, why this moment is different from every previous one. Every previous moment in this dynamic had a specific configuration, the empath oriented toward the avoidant managing that orientation, the alarm running alongside the genuine feeling. The cost assessment operating in the background of every moment of genuine closeness. This moment is configured differently. The empath is grounded in their own life, genuinely somewhere, not primarily oriented toward the avoidant even now that the avoidance falling is visible, carrying the love but not organized around it, present but not waiting. The avoidant is in the specific, alarm-reduced state that the interval produced, has felt the full weight of the absence, has done the private accounting that the distance forced. Is approaching not from the managed, protocol-running position of someone who has successfully maintained the preferred configuration, but from the honest, recognition-arrived position of someone whose preferred configuration failed to produce what it was supposed to produce. Two people, neither in the position they occupied at the beginning. Both carrying more honest self-knowledge than they had before, both in genuine, if very different territory. The meeting of these two changed people, if it happens when it happens, is not a resumption. Cannot be a resumption because neither person is who they were when the dynamic was active. It is something genuinely new. Whether the genuinely new thing is worth building depends on one factor above all others, whether the avoidance recognition has become or is becoming actual work. The question the empath must ask and answer honestly. Not of the avoidant, of themselves. What do you actually want? Not what you wanted before the rejection, not what you hoped for throughout the interval. What you actually want now from the actual position you are actually in, with the actual self-knowledge you have actually developed. This question is harder than it sounds, because the love is still present. The empath's love does not require the object of it to be behaving well to persist, and the love can make the wanting feel obvious. Of course you want this. The love is real. The connection was real. The falling is real. The answer seems self-evident, but wanting and choosing are different. And choosing, from the grounded position the interval produced, requires asking what the choosing would actually mean for the life that has been built. Whether the reconnection, entering the life that is genuinely yours, adds to what is there or requires the reorganization of what is there around the avoidant again. Whether the evidence of genuine change in the avoidant, the actual, behavioral, showed overtime evidence rather than the feeling of the falling, is present, or whether the wanting is being asked to run ahead of the evidence. Whether the person you have become in the interval is the person who enters this reconnection, or whether the entering requires becoming someone smaller, more accommodating, more organized around the avoidant than the interval produced. These questions are not obstacles to love. They are the honest conditions under which love that is genuinely sustainable becomes possible. Answer them honestly. From the actual position you are actually in, and let the honest answers determine what happens next, not the love, not the falling, not the hope that the recognition will prove to be what genuine change looks like. The honest answers to honest questions, asked by someone who has genuinely built something, and who knows now that what was built is worth protecting. Not because it is more important than love, because it is the foundation without which love, however real, cannot be sustained. That foundation is yours. It was built by you, for you. And whatever comes next, whether the reconnection happens and becomes something genuinely different, or whether the empath's life continues in the direction it has been building without the avoidance participation, the foundation remains, completely yours, unaffected by the avoidance falling, undiminished by the rejection that preceded it, simply there, as it has always been. As it will continue to be, yours.